DC's Superman just flopped. And it's worse than you think. They poured everything into this movie: money, hype, press tours, non-stop social media buzz. And yet James Gunn's Superman reboot is barely staying afloat. DC fans were promised a new era. What they got instead? A cinematic faceplant in slow motion. This wasn't supposed to be just another superhero flick. It was the film that was meant to revive a crumbling franchise, a fresh start under a new visionary. But instead of soaring, Superman is, well, spiraling. The budget no one wants to talk about. On paper, Warner Bros. Says the movie cost $225 million to make. But let's be honest, nobody believes that. With countless delays, expensive reshoots, world-spanning marketing, and premium CGI, the real cost likely shot past $425 million, with some insiders whispering it might have brushed up against $500 million. And here's where things get wild. Before the movie even hit theaters, Warner Bros. Was already managing expectations. Executives told the press they'd be satisfied with a $500 million global haul. Seriously? You spend almost $500 million and start off saying, hey, breaking even is a win. That's not confidence, that's damage control before opening weekend even began. The numbers that shook the studio. So how did it actually do? Not great. Opening weekend saw Superman pull in $217 million globally, with $122 million from the US. That's less than Man of Steel brought in back in 2013. And that was before Thursday previews were even counted in totals. And once you adjust for inflation, this reboot gets absolutely steamrolled. Even internationally, it stumbled. With full global rollout, China, Japan, Brazil, Europe, you'd expect a solid debut. Instead, the overseas total barely scraped $95 million. Man of Steel reached $71 million with way fewer markets and no China over a decade ago. This wasn't just a rough start, it was a worldwide shrug. Enter the PR spin zone. Right on cue, the studio fired up the PR machine. Headlines screamed, "Best Superman opening ever." Social media flooded with influencers calling it emotional, deep, James Gunn's masterpiece. Only none of it added up. Comparisons to Man of Steel fell apart when you looked at real numbers. Critics gave it lukewarm praise, audiences called it average, and even defenders used phrases like a good starting point or not bad. Let's translate. That's the polite way of saying it didn't land. The audience isn't buying it. Fans weren't outraged. They weren't thrilled either. Most walked out of theaters feeling nothing. Yes, there's humor, but a lot of it feels awkward or out of place. Some scenes try too hard to be quirky, others reach for emotion and fall flat. The tone jumps around without ever finding a real heartbeat. No iconic moments, no viral clips, no quotes people are tattooing on their walls, and it's just forgettable. And in 2025, forgettable is worse than bad. This was the foundation, and it's already cracking. Remember, this isn't just one movie. This was the first domino, the cornerstone of James Gunn's reimagined DC universe. The next projects, Supergirl, The Authority, Booster Gold, Batman, The Brave and the Bold, they all depend on this Superman setting the tone. But instead of lighting the fuse, it barely sparked. If your most famous, most bankable hero can't rally the crowd, how are the side characters supposed to stand a chance? That's like your headliner bombing before the opening act even hits the stage. The identity crisis that won't go away. Here's DC's real problem. It still doesn't know what it wants to be. One minute it's dark and brooding, the next it's campy and chaotic. Now with Superman, it's aiming for hopeful and inspiring, but it lands in no man's land. Too tame to thrill, too bland to inspire. Compare that to Marvel's golden years. Love them or hate them, they had a clear vibe and stuck to it. DC, it's like a different universe every film. Audiences feel the whiplash, and they're tired of it. Superhero fatigue isn't a myth, it's right here. Studios keep acting shocked when audiences don't show up. But how many reboots, reshoots, and fresh starts can one franchise survive? It's always the same. Overhyped trailers, origin story deja vu, generic villains, shiny CGI, and nothing new to say. We're in the post-Marvel fatigue era now. Loyalty is gone. Patience? That expired years ago. You get one shot. If your movie doesn't hit out the gate, it's done. And Superman didn't hit. It barely nudged. James Gunn was meant to be the savior? Let's not forget, this is the same guy who turned talking animals into blockbuster icons. Guardians of the Galaxy was fun, fresh, full of heart. So what went wrong? It's not just Gunn, it's the whole system. He's building on a shaky foundation, trying to fix years of mess with one script. But even the best director can't rescue a vision that's constantly shifting under their feet. Warner Brothers handed him the keys. Total control, creative freedom, the Kevin Feige treatment. And this is what we got? A mid-tier movie with no spark and no staying power. What happens now? The investors are watching. Merch isn't flying off shelves. Kids aren't begging for Superman toys. There's no buzz, no cultural movement, no sense of, you have to see this. Instead, Superman came and went, like a soft launch dressed up in a cape. And if this is the bar, then the rest of the DC lineup is in serious trouble. The excuses are coming, but they won't save it. Soon you'll see the same narrative play out. It has legs. Audiences are catching on late. Critics are too harsh. It's building momentum. They said the same about The Flash, about Black Adam, about Shazam 2. And look how that turned out. You can't PR spin your way into a hit anymore. The audience decides. And this time, they just didn't care enough. Let's be real, Superman deserved better. This was supposed to be his moment, his comeback, the grand return of the world's most iconic superhero. Instead, he got outshined by Ant-Man 3. That's not a joke. That's reality. If Superman can't win back hearts, if his film can't even stand above the flops of the last decade, then what are we even doing here? The future looks wobbly. Warner Bros. Has already committed to this new era. Scripts are written, shows are greenlit, casting is underway. But if this is how you introduce your flagship hero, what makes anyone think audiences will turn out for Swamp Thing? Or Booster Gold? They gave it their best shot. They spent the money, pushed the hype, cast the visionary, and they still missed. Is this the start of another collapse? Because that's what it feels like. History repeating itself. The same signs: weak openings, corporate denial, fans losing faith, the reboot cycle spinning again. Except this time, we might be watching it unravel in real time. James Gunn is talented, no doubt, but talent alone can't carry a franchise this broken. Until DC locks in a clear identity, earns back trust, and builds something people can actually feel connected to. No reboot, no PR campaign, and no shiny new Superman suit is going to save them. Because at the end of the day, no one shows up for a franchise that doesn't know what it's fighting for. If you're seeing through the smoke and mirrors, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop your take in the comments. Do you think DC can recover? Or is this the beginning of the end, again? Because while Warner Bros. Spins their next puff piece, we'll be right here, watching the numbers. And right now, Superman ain't flying, he's falling faster than ever.